Hello and welcome to a digital book talk from Massanutten Regional Library. Today's digital book talk is going to focus on Christian fiction books for our teenage readers. So let's start with, what is Christian fiction? What is that genre? Well, that genre consists of books written from a Christian worldview. And there are a variety of genres and tones that exist within the category of Christian fiction. So you can have ones that focus on being caught up in the rapture, or Christian soldiers, Christianity under fire, tests of faith, forgiving and forgetting, what would Jesus do? But the consistency is that the main characters deal with life's ups and downs by acknowledging that God is in control and by choosing to honor him through their actions regardless of the consequences. And sometimes that worldview is spelled out, and sometimes it's a minimal framework that might begin and end the story, have some pieces within it. And just to share with you some of the Christian fiction authors that we have here at Massanutten Regional Library, who you may or may not be familiar with. These are books by Carrie Bender. Sigmund Bauer and Melody Carlson are two more of our Christian fiction authors. Their covers look very different from the Carrie Bender ones that we just saw, but yet they all fall into the very much larger category of Christian fiction. Also in this category, you will find Melanie Dickerson and Martha Finley, Robin Jones Gunn, and Andrew Clavin. Andrews obviously are very adventure-based, but still in the Christian fiction genre. And Beverly Lewis, Catherine Marshall, and then Rockingham County's own Tamara Shoemaker. So she is a local author. So that was a sampling of some of the Christian fiction authors that we have here at Massanutten Regional Library in our teen collection. And in front of me I have 4 other books, some by authors I've already mentioned and some by authors I haven't mentioned yet, but these are the books that we're going to focus on today. Our first book today is called Just Ask by Melody Carlson. In this book we have 16-year-old Kim Peterson. Kim struggles with religious questions and ultimately tries to live a Christian life while she writes a teen advice column for her dad's newspaper. And then a family tragedy occurs and her faith is shaken. Kim is a realistic young woman trying to make sense of her world in the context of her religion. She makes mistakes and experiences the consequences of bad decisions, but in the end, faith and friends pull her through. My second book today is Not So Pure and Simple by Lamar Giles. Now, Mr. Giles is a local resident to the Harrisonburg area, and this book recently won the 2022 Richmond Public Library's Young Adult Virginia Author Award. And that's an award that is selected by a panel of teenage judges, judges who are picked from around the state to be part of that panel. And in fact, a 2022 graduate of Harrisonburg High School was on the committee that picked this book as the winner this year. And that person highly recommended the inclusion of this title in our collection. She loved it and really suggested that I read it and include it here. Now, let me tell you about the book. In this book, we have Del Rainey. Del attends church with his mother just to get close to the girl he's had a crush on since kindergarten, Kira Westing. So when Kira and other teens approach the altar during a service, Del jumps up to join the youth group so that he can spend more time with Kira. And then he realizes that he has just become a purity pledger, committed to staying sexually pure until marriage. Though he is a virgin, Del has a reputation for being a player at school, and Kira will not entertain his clumsy advances. Enter Jameer. Jameer is another purity pledger, and he promises to help Dell connect with Kira in exchange for the one thing the purity pledgers do not have access to, which is accurate information about sexual health. Dell is the only one in the group who is taking healthy living at school. So Dell agrees, and he navigates being the guy who has to ask a lot of awkward questions in his sex ed class. You might ask, why aren't any of the other kids taking healthy living? Well, that's because the pastor will not allow his young parishioners to enroll. He won't allow them to enroll because there are rumors about a baby getters club, a supposed pact among some of the girls at school to get pregnant at the same time. And one of those girls, well, she tires of being labeled a baby getter and calls out her child's father on social media, demanding accountability for the fathers and less focus on the mothers. This story explores expectations around gender roles, calls out toxic behaviors that even good guys are guilty of, such as public shaming or the failure to accept no as an answer. It also examines the impact of social media, religion, and how adults handle all of these issues. So if you'd like to find out more about Dell, you'll need to read Not So Pure and Simple by Lamar Giles. Our third book today is What Mama Left Me by Renee Watson. This is Watson's first novel. She's got many others now, but this is the first one she did. And it explores themes of abuse, faith, and identity in an urban setting through the voice, diary entries, and poems of 13-year-old Serenity Evans. After her mother's death at the hands of her abusive father, African-American 8th grader Serenity and her younger brother go to live in Portland, Oregon with their loving grandparents. Their grandfather is a pastor at Restoration Baptist Church, and their grandmother volunteers at the church. To deal with her worries and her grief, her neighborhood where drugs and violence remain a constant temptation, her feelings for a boy who's involved in both, her brother's poor choices, and her questioning of God, she turns to her journal, which begins each chapter and includes assigned poems and quotes from the Bible and from Maya Angelou. Starting fresh at a new school holds promising beginnings for Serenity when she makes a new friend, a friend named Maria, and becomes involved with the youth ministry at her grandfather's church. Religion and faith play a large part in both of their lives. And if you'd like to know more about Serenity and her family and her friend Maria, you'll need to read What Mama Left Me to find out. Our last book today is Katie's New World by Kim Sawyer. This is the first book in the Katie Lambright series. Katie has lived in her small Old Order Mennonite community very peacefully, despite her mother's death, the death that followed her separation from the family and the church. Katie loves her Mennonite community, but she yearns for knowledge. And now Katie is intent on going to high school, which is something that's never been done by any community member, for whom the small one-room schoolhouse has always sufficed. After receiving permission from the elders, she begins attending public high school. It's scary, but Katie is used to being odd, and she quickly finds a friend. She finds a friend in Shelby, the daughter of a Baptist minister who has been assigned to be her guide at her new school. And Shelby and Katie gradually find that they share some interest, most especially that they are both writers. If you'd like to know more about Katie's New World, you'll have to read the book to find out. So today I've shared with you the names of a variety of Christian fiction authors contained in our collection here at Massanutten Regional Library, as well as these 4 books that we have specifically talked about. Regardless of which book you choose to read today, I hope that you find something that you love to read. Happy reading.